Hello, everyone. Yes, there is currently a bunch of construction going on in the house. That's why I didn't have a day to just make a crap ton of shorts to fill the entire week. So anyway, let's talk about American Gladiators 2026 because I finally just watched the entire season. I had to put like a couple of days in between the first four episodes and then like the final two. But yeah, I've watched the entire season now, and oh boy, I got some thoughts about it. So, generally speaking, I feel like everyone who grew up in the 90s has a couple of shows that they remember, and it's like, and every time there's a remake of it, it's like, yes, it's coming back! And then every time you see the remake of it, it's like, oh, this isn't as good as I remember it. And then you have that thought process of, well, maybe the original was also pretty bad. Uh, And let's go back and watch the original and know the original actually is still good. I mean, some of the stuff we watched as kids didn't actually hold up. I mean, I remember renting Surf Ninjas like every single week, okay? And Surf Ninjas is not a good movie. But American Gladiators, specifically like season 3, really holds up. Like, season 3 of American Gladiators was really good. And I watched the Hulk Hogan remake in like 2008, and it was all right. It has actually some of the same problems as the 2026. I watched a few episodes of the Titan games because it's like, oh, it's The Rock, and okay, it's American Gladiators, but with The Rock, so on and so forth. And then I watched the new season as well. And I will say that the new season has potential, but there's a very fundamental flaw. There's multiple fundamental flaws in the entire concept of this show and the way it is being produced from the perspective of myself, a fan of the original American Gladiators. And those flaws are actually quite numerous. So, first and foremost, I think we should ask a very simple question. What is the point of American Gladiators? Because, realistically, if you want to see an athletic competition, you can watch a soccer game, you can watch a football game, you can watch, like, Ninja Warrior is an obstacle course, but it's, a very skilled obstacle course that essentially you need to be a professional rock climber to go through. I feel the point of American Gladiators was to see normal people taking on these events, Sort of the same way Ninja Warrior used to be, Oh, here we are at this competition, and a fisherman is going up against a high school geography teacher. And they're going to now play this game, and for the next hour, we're watching these two normal people do a bunch of events. That's the point of it. And you don't want to have those normal people, like, at the end of the day, going into the eliminator, it's 2 points to 0. Like, okay, you don't want it to be, like, too hard and kill the competition. Realistically, I should watch an episode of American Gladiators and go, I think I could do that. I think I could sign up for it. Bean, what are you doing? This is a... I don't know where I got a peace flower heart thing. That's a keychain attachment, but that's not a toy. That's not a toy. Here, Bean, here, have a Bean. Look. There's a hair tie. Go get the hair tie. See the hair tie? See the hair tie? Yeah. Get the hair tie. She is unfazed. She is unfazed by the hair tie, even though she normally goes after it. Point of American Gladiator should be that my fat ass should be able to go on, look at the screen and go, I could do that. I could, jump off this with a bungee cord, jump up and grab a ball and then bounce it back, throw it in a can. I can go and run the maze. I can go, I might not, win Breakthrough and Conquer, but I could probably get 5 points. I would be close to getting one of the two events, in it. I could do assault. I can aim and just, fire a Nerf gun at a target. I could do that. I feel like that's generally the point of American Gladiators. It is the competition show for average people. Like, that is what, in theory, this should be. And I don't think that this current season gets that across. Because everyone that's on this show has to have the most tragic, horrific backstory imaginable. And also the fact that, most of the time the competitors are falling flat on their face at the very end of the match. But I will get to the Eliminator later. So, generally speaking, if you're the average person show for the average person, I'm imagining you want to have, the original series did it in this way, where it's like, Mike Adamle would have, a 30-second introduction for each competitor, where it's like, this person is a preschool teacher and from Minnesota, and in her free time, she goes to the local farmer's market and sells, exotic flowers. And her opponent is a biology professor who, in her spare time, does swimming at the blah, 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 blah camp or whatever. Generally speaking, and that was it. Now on to the game. This season goes, now we have a serious interview with our character, this person that we have here. And, my sad, tragic backstory where, my father was an abusive man, and he raped me as a child, and then my mother shot herself in the head, and that's when the bears attacked, and they ripped up my leg, and I got 79 stitches and a prosthetic put in its place, and that's when my child had cancer, and then the entire, then 9/11 happened, and my life was never the same after that, and then I found out that I was pregnant. I don't even remember when that happened, but the courts ordered me to, By the way, our next game is Atmosphere. Yay for the homeless rape abuse. Woo! Like at some point in time, this is not Dark Side of the Ring. I don't need to know the tragic backstory of every single person that's taking every one of these events. Look, we all got shit. We've had to deal in life. Some people have had to have way worse shit happen to them, and I am terribly, terribly sorry that all those things have happened to you. Why does anyone else need to know this? We are here to watch people in spandex uniforms run across a bridge while other people in spandex uniforms try to swing on a rope and just, leg vine you. What is the campy fun game? Tragedy porn. People climbing a rock wall with spandex muscle heads chasing after them. I spit on your grave. People in a giant hamster wheel trying to run over sensors that then shoot smoke up into the air. Grave of the Fireflies. These two tones ain't toning together. Okay? Just letting you know that. They ain't toning together. And that cuts into the time of the games, okay? I watch American Gladiators because as a kid, you saw 6 different events or 5 events, or I think even sometimes 7 events, whatever, point is, you saw a bunch of events, and then they got to an eliminator. It was an hour show, and it was game, 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 the end. You know? This one, there's 3 events, and then the eliminator. It's still an hour show. It's still got commercial breaks, because I'm not paying for, no commercials. But, yeah, we have the, so we've got like half the show missing from this because of all the prolonged exposition dumps of everyone's tragedy, and then also the slow-mo and replay and all this sort of stuff where it's like, oh no, this hit is coming. Wom, 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 wom. Oh wait, now do it again and zoom in. Wom, 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 wom. Now let's see it from a different angle. Wom, 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 wom. Etc., etc. The entire... A 30-second game is now suddenly taking 3 minutes. But it's not 3 minutes of content, it's 3 minutes of interrupting the game. Like, if I want to watch a boxing match, generally speaking, there's a ring, and I'm seeing 2 people fight. I'm not seeing the same one punch over and over and over again. I'm seeing the entire round. If I'm watching a soccer game, I'm watching the entire field, and I'm watching the game take place. Yes, I know the World Cup had, like, water breaks and so on and so forth, but, generally speaking, it wasn't a situation of... Point is that you're not actually seeing the game. You're not getting a good instance of the game. Because with all the cuts and fadeaways, reaction shots, all this sort of stuff, people's locations in where what's happening gets foggy, it gets missed. We keep cutting back to different things. It's like, wait, weren't you over there the other time? How did you get there? They're skipping parts of the game. They're jumping in front of the game. They're going back to the game. They're doing things in an unusual order to make the actual games themselves, what few there are, less coherent and harder to follow. And also, with only 3 games, by God, that means, like, if there's a game you dislike, it's like, great, it's Hang Tough again. I hate Hang Tough. It's not like, oh, in the earlier days, oh, it's Hang Tough. Oh, well, but it'll be over in 5 minutes, and then I'll get to a game I like. Now, if it's Hang Tough, it's like, oh, God, this is going to be 20 minutes of the episode. Like, an entire third of this episode is now diluted with Hang Tough. Ugh, I hate it. So, pacing of all this is off the wall. Bean, what are you ripping up? Foam, okay. Ripping up foam. But anyway, outside of that as well, the other problem that I have is just, generally speaking, some of the choice of games, or some of the modifications that have been made to said games. Like, generally speaking, what makes an exciting game? Something dynamic, okay? Like, generally speaking, does anyone actually have any fun playing Candyland? It's one path, it's predetermined by what card is where. There's no choice, there's the one path it always goes, so on and so forth. Generally speaking, for a game, there needs to be dynamicness. I can go left, I can go right, I can go through the center, you'll go through the center, then go right, then go left. The fact that there's something dynamic happening, there's a lot of choices involved. You can strategize, you can see what happens, you can make a game plan. The Wall was a good example of this in the earlier series. Because you have a giant rock wall, it's 50 feet high, I don't know, but it's 20 feet across maybe? 25, 30 perhaps? And yes, the competitors start on opposite ends, but they don't have to keep going up this one path because the wall sometimes protrudes out and goes in. You can go while you're going up, cross over to a different area, elevation change, and then maybe cross back or this way. It wasn't a static climb up this only path. There was, you could reach for this one, or you could reach for that one, or you could reach for that one. There was different dynamic things you could do in the wall. The wall in the 2026 remake is one path. Like, oh look, here's literally the wall. And there's a plastic tarp of like, here's where holes could be, but they're not. There's nothing there. There's very specifically this path of a grab up. What do rock climbers even call them? Grabbers, ledges. There's this path of rocks that literally, it's one path and it goes. That's it. That's the only path you can take. That's the only path the gladiators can take. That's the only path anyone can take. You've just removed choices. You've just removed different possible angles of attack. You've just removed a different way this game can be played. You've removed the dynamics of it. And even some of the other games where it's like, okay, we've got I don't even know what the game is called. There's a button in the center, you run at it, you hit the button. That's it. And if you get tackled down, you gotta go back, run again. Okay, it's just a less dynamic version of Powerball then. Powerball had 5 different zones you could possibly score in. One here, one here. Oh, and then of course there was that risky one in the center that was worth more points, which was guarded by an extra gladiator. You could juke out one gladiator, get 2 points at one of the 2 sides. But you would have to juke out 2 gladiators to get to the 3-point one. There was a choice involved. Do I take the 2 points? Do I take the 3 points? And depending on if the other gladiators are currently, preoccupied with someone else because it's happening all at the same time, you could have a different strategy. With this one, though, nope. It's a one-on-one with the, it's 2-on-2, but it's one-on-one. You're always going for the same goal, the same target, always in the center. It never changes. It's literally Powerball, but with less stuff happening. So the dynamicness of it is gone. So whenever a new event popped up, it'd be like, okay, fine. And then the other one, they brought back Whiplash or whatever, or whatever the one where you have the dog bone, you have to like wrestle it out of the person's hand. And that showed up like once in like all the episodes. So yeah, by the way, there's only like 6 episodes in this season, so that means also like I don't actually see many of the games often. And it seems like really unbalanced. Like, okay, we see like this game like 7 or 8 times, then we see this other game twice at best. So there's definitely an off-balanceness of what game shows up when. Also, it also means that I don't really know who the heck any of the gladiators are. Like, yes, I know who the wrestlers are. Like, hi, it's Camille. Hi, it's, Rick Boogs. Hi, it's, Wardlow. Yes, I know them. Because they're also the ones playing up their characters. Rick Boogs especially. And Rick Boog and Wardlow are definitely playing up their characters. Camille to a lesser extent, but everyone else is a complete blank slate. What's Eagle? He's a bald guy with a beard. Who's Steel? I don't know, he's like the 17th person to be called Steel. And, for the guy that's named Steel, you think he'd be the biggest, strongest, most muscular muscle man ever, and it's like, oh yeah, he's good looking. He's got a physique, but I mean, it's like, the steroid-abusing wrestlers are definitely bigger. Oh, sorry, HGH, crushed deer antlers, testosterone replacement therapy, whatever the legal way to get steroids is nowadays. That's not technically steroids, but you know what I mean. So yeah, and then I don't know who half the and all the women are like literally all the same shade of like bland. It's like, I'm glad for this competitor and this guy. We had a good clean fight. Next Gladiator interview. Oh, this competitor had a great fighting spirit with us, and I'm going to see you again in the... Like, it's all the same promo from 17 different people. It's like, do any one of you understand that you're on a television show and there's a character involved? That's one of the things that I did like honestly, that's one of the things that the 2008 version with Hulk Hogan got right. It had a lot of problems, but Wolf was a wolf. Militia, every single thing he did was military related. Like, the salute, the this, the that, whatever. He was playing his gimmick. You could remember who these people were. Now, just because of the lack of games and just the lack of personality on a lot of these guys, it's like, okay, what is Ace? What does Ace do? Why is Ace called Ace? What's his gimmick to the rest of the Gladiators? Is he the speedy one? Is he the smarmy one? Is he the romantic one? What is his gimmick? I could tell you what Gemini was. Gemini was the dead-focused beast, Rage in a Cage, the Master Blaster. Nitro was the asshole. He was the tiny one, but he was the one that was going to punch you in the fucking face. Titan was the big guy, so big that he couldn't even wear the harness for half the events, so he couldn't be in them, I knew who these people were. Through repetition of seeing them over and over and over again for like 30 different episodes a season compared to 6. But, also through multiple events and just different little things. Like, you start to learn, oh yeah, Viper, that's Viper's kind of an asshole like that. Or Hawk, he's a hothead, or, so on and so forth. You learned who was who and what they did, and what they were good at, what they excelled at. There were certain events you didn't want Laser on. I think Laser was, like, undefeated in the Joust for, like, forever, or was that the Wall? But the point being, like, there were certain Gladiators where it's like, you don't want to fight this person on this event. They try to do the same thing in this one, but it's like, this person is undefeated at the Wall. They've only been on the Wall once. You can't have an undefeated streak at, like... Okay, technically you can have an undefeated streak at, like, 2. But it's not an impressive undefeated streak, It's like they're trying to build up the establishment of, like, they're trying to build on the public consciousness and, notoriety of, like, 40 years of continuity. But these people don't actually have 40 years of continuity to build upon. These are new Gladiators. These are new people. And realistically, the only things that I know about some of the Gladiators are, Rick Boogs, the Bull, apparently doesn't understand what the rules of the game are. Doesn't matter what game he's in. He just doesn't understand the rules. Referee's yelling at him like, stop it, you can't hold him down, you have to let him get up to try to go through the gauntlet. Bull, you can't do that, Bull, you can't do that. And there's like 3 different times where it's the Bull in Gauntlet, and that happens. The man clearly just doesn't understand the rules of the game. Like, that's it. That is the one defining feature that I understand, the one defining trait of any of the Gladiators in this series. The Bull doesn't pay attention to the rules. That's it. Like, okay, so Rick Boogs is apparently a dumbass jock. Unfortunately, that's a very babyface thing in wrestling. Yeah, anyone who is ever a wrestler, you will find this out very, very quickly. 9 times out of 10, the nicest guys in the building are the bad guys. Like, they will go like, hey, we'll do this, hey, I want to get you over, I will do this, hey, do this move, and they will be encouraging you to do shit to them. It's like, oh, I love to bump, we're gonna get so over. So, sometimes to the point where it's like, buddy, this is not helping my character or anything. This is just, thank you for trying to help, but, we're missing the point of what this actual match is here. I'm not doing a 540 shooting star Hurricane Rana through a flaming table. That's not my way of getting over. We're good. Whereas the baby faces will be complete fucking assholes and go, yo, dude, I'm doing the 450 hurricane run off through a flaming table, shooting star press thing. And if I see you do it, it's like, it's like, motherfucker. So yeah, generally speaking, it's like, Rick Boogs was the face with a fun gimmick. It's like, there's just something about baby faces in wrestling where it's like, they like believe their own hype and ego. And it's like, the crowd loves me, man. The crowd, like, there's so many jackasses in the babyface half of the locker room. It always winds up happening. Now, thankfully, I haven't had that happen in the ECWA, but I've seen it so many times. People believe their own... Yes, you hit the keys. Thank you, Bean. But yeah, so realistically, the one thing I know about the Gladiators is Rick Boogs is either A, really ADD and doesn't notice a thing, or B, is just an asshole. Like, if the only thing I know about your Gladiators is something that makes me like a certain one less. Not necessarily the greatest, thing. Especially when afterwards, doesn't matter, after he, like, punches a guy in the face and throws him through a glass window, gets on the mic and goes, "This bull is out of control!" and tries to get the crowd to cheer and whatnot. It's like, okay, so now you're a babyface again when you were a heel before. Thank you. It's just, maybe having wrestlers on this show was not a good idea. I haven't watched the UK Gladiators yet, or the 2008 UK Gladiators either, so God, I hope Nick Aldis didn't do this sort of shit when he was on. Like, although I feel Nick Aldis would understand the difference between heel and babyface and don't switch between them every 5 minutes. So, yeah. I'm hoping Nick Aldis did not suck on UK Gladiators. I'm hoping he did not. But yeah. So yeah. That's my... That's that. Now let's get to... Oh, I'm at 17 minutes for this clip. Let's cut here and let's talk about the Eliminator after this. Okay, so the Eliminator. First off, I will say thank you for not doing the stupid you must win with X number of second rule of, the first 2 seasons, because you could never follow that, and it's like, oh, this person won! Yeah, but they didn't win by 4.5 seconds, so, they actually lost. Thank you for doing the time delay, where first whistle, person goes, second whistle, second person goes, now whoever wins the finish line is, the person that won. Unless, of course, if you're in the finale and you accidentally step off the travelator. Yeah, that was a lovely, lovely technicality. So, 2 things. If you were to take, if you were to say, David, what was your least favorite part of the Eliminator? I would have told you the cargo net. The cargo net, every single season, it was like, okay, this person got the cargo net first, it's over. And then if you were to say in the later seasons, David, what is your least favorite part of the Eliminator? I would say the travelator, the treadmill at the end of the thing, and the rope swing at the end. Like, for the first 4 episodes of this reboot, and I do mean it, every single time, for the women's Eliminator, everyone just kept falling flat on their face going up the treadmill. And then they would get back down, they'd fall flat on the face getting up the treadmill. And this was also a problem in the 2008 version, where it's like, they would cut to a commercial after people failed at the travelator numerous times. Come back from commercial, we're still at the Eliminator, and it's 27 minutes have passed. 27 minutes have passed, and they're still not up the travelator? They're not up the treadmill? Like, I understand the desire to have one final obstacle so that you're neck and neck at the end. I understand from a show-running standpoint, for making, entertaining television, I understand why you want that. But if it's always that one thing at the very end, basically every single time, then nothing else in the goddamn show matters. All that matters is who runs up one treadmill. You might as well make this a treadmill show. And this person, here's your sad backstory, run up the treadmill. And you, this person, here's your sad backstory, you also run up the treadmill. We will see which one of these two people can run up a treadmill faster. So, and of course, at the end of it, because they're exhausted, because of all the ridiculous crap that has happened throughout the entire Eliminator, by the end they grab a rope swing and it just flop through like a I don't know what it is. Is it plastic? Is it like a elastic bungee sort of thing? One of the people who actually slid through and like hit the wall and bounced off. They didn't actually physically break the barricade. They didn't break the finish line. Like, you could be sprinting through this entire thing and then whoosh, boop. It's like, it is not a climactic finish. It never is. Like, the Travelator at the end does the exact opposite of making it an exciting finish. You know? And also, I'd say, like, at this point, going back to dynamicism, there has got to be a word that explains what I'm trying to say. But the dynamicness of the Eliminator is gone as well. Like, what happens if someone falls off? I should probably explain what the Eliminator is in this season. It's basically kind of the UK version from like the 90s. So there's a bar you jump over, bar you slide under, bar you jump over, climb a rope, handbars, a trapeze swing, climb up a cargo net, zip line down, walk across a balance beam, run up a treadmill. Okay? What happens if you fall off the handbars? I don't know. No one fell off it. What happens if you fall off the trapeze? I don't know. No one fell off it. The Eliminator, especially in like Season 3, Season 4, was really good because there were multiple points of failure that were different. You know? You started off with the Travelator. And you know what? If someone didn't make it up, go again. Someone doesn't make it up, go again. Someone doesn't make it up, okay, the referee stops you and say, okay, you've had 3 attempts on it, walk up the side. Now this person has a huge time deficit to make up. Okay? They just wasted 20 seconds on this one obstacle. Now they have to catch up. But the next one was the hand bike. And you know what? Some people couldn't really get that much momentum on the hand bike, while some people speeded past it. Some people even fell down and then took like a 7-second penalty, or a 10-second penalty, depending on if it was men or women or whatever. So it was like, okay, no, you have to wait. So now, maybe some of that difference was caught up. Then, there's a spinning cylinder you gotta run across. You fall off that. Oh, now you gotta go up that shaky little, it was either another penalty or there was like it was really a difficult ladder that had like no suspension on, like had no like like no backing to it, so it was difficult to get up it. Like basically you were either past the spinning log in 2 seconds or it was going to take you another 15-20 to get back up. So once again, there were multiple points of failure along the way so that even if you screwed up one obstacle, someone else could screw up somewhere else, and you could still have a tight dynamic finish of this person's in the lead, now this person's in the lead, now this person's in the lead, and it was all like that. Then the cargo net would happen, and then it's okay, whoever got to the top of the cargo net first won. Realistically, but that first half of the Eliminator was really dynamic, and it was always changing. You could have someone take a big lead. You could have someone lose a big lead. You could have people fall off at different points. It was exciting because you could have different types of lead changes. And then, of course, take down the zip line, go over the wall, go over the second wall. And they never quite figured out what to put at the end to make it fair. Like, sometimes it was a gladiator with, like, a pad, and it's like, go run through one of these 4 walls. 3 of them are safe, but one of them has a gladiator. And it's like, well, okay, well, basically it's just random luck if you get screwed over. Nope, that's a stupid idea for the ending. The 2 gladiators are going to throw giant medicine balls at you as you run across this. Except the giant medicine balls did, like, nothing. And, they would often bounce into the other person's thing, so all it did was just hurt the person who was in second place. Or there's the little gauntlet where, there's a thing back and forth where these giant, football blockers just go like this, back and forth and zigzag through. It was probably the most fair out of the ending things they had, while still allowing for people to run and jump and leap and have a dive for the ticker tape at the end to go, it's the finish line, boom, and it broke it. You would still have like an athletic run to the finish instead of just a wee. Oh, I didn't have enough momentum, even though I'm 200 pounds, to break through the tape. Ay. So yeah, overall, it was not necessarily my favorite version of the Eliminator. And I understand we don't want to have Pyramid involved, because, people broke their necks on Pyramid, and spinal compression and all that. There were some games that we don't really want to bring back just for people's safety. But, having the Pyramid in the Eliminator and then ziplining off of that was so much more interesting than the cargo net. I'm sorry. But yeah. So there's that. So yeah, how would I, because I still love American Gladiators. What would I change about it? Obviously the show is not as good as the 90s series, but I see the bones, I see the potential for it, and I'm like, what would I change? What would I do? Well, obviously first off, give me at least 5 events before the Eliminator. Hell, give me 6 events before the Eliminator. And don't do the 2008 thing where it's if you want to see this event, go to NBC.com. No. Event. Give me 30 seconds on each person, just so I know who they are, and just go event, Eliminator. That's all I want to see. That's it. Obviously, come up with some new events that are dynamic, and also bring back some old events and make them more dynamic. Skytrack, for example, was horrible in the fact that you either got first place, second place, or 0. And more often than not, people got 0. You just got 0 points because the gladiator touched the button in the back and sparks came off, or in the 2008, Hulk Hogan version, a ripcord, and then people just sort of fell. But generally speaking, the idea of Sky Chase should be people attached to a wall, crawling on their hands and knees upside down, and they're trying to cross a finish line. Ideally, why don't we make you made it to this zone, that's 1 point. Now you've made it around this bend, that's another point. Now you've made it to this part, it's 3 points, etc., etc., etc. So you could have someone finish. They didn't make it to the end, but they got 7 points. They made it 7/10 of the way around the track before the gladiator caught them. Okay. Same thing with if we were to bring back Pyramid, they're not, because Pyramid would kill people. But you got onto this rung, this step of the pyramid, that's 1 point. Next step, 2 points. Next step, 3 points. Higher and higher you get until if you hit the button at the top, that's 10 points. You made it 8 rungs up the pyramid. That's 8 points. The idea is you need to keep giving people points and making it exciting. They made it to 4 points. Let's see, can they make it past up to 5 points? So on and so forth. This is what actual real sports have had it happen as well. Basketball invented the shot clock to stop people from just stalling and delaying the game and just passing back and forth and doing nothing. It's no. I understand you're up by 4 points, but you're not going to just, sit there and do nothing. You have to actively try to make a shot. Same thing with 3 points. It's okay, you know what? People are trying to get way too close here. Shoo, bug, shoo, off the screen. But, if they want a riskier shot, from further away, 3 points. You know, the rules of basketball kept changing to make basketball more fast-paced, more exciting, that it was never a dull moment. Like, you know, the wall probably shouldn't be 10 points, 5 points, or nothing. There should be like lines of delineation. Okay, you made it this far, that's 3 points. You made it this far, that's 6 points. Whatever. You know, same thing with Hang Tough. You know, Hang Tough basically ends. Basically, there's only 2 games of Hang Tough that has ever been played. Immediately swings in. You know, the gladiator catches them, wrap their legs around them, and it's like, okay, they've got 48 seconds left. They're not gonna hang on. Ka-thump. Or they are able to make the one move, because that's really all you can do in Hang Tough is someone's going to the left, I'm going to go to the right. And by that point, you have enough distance and momentum, they're never catching you. You either instantly win in 15 seconds, or you instantly lose in 15 seconds. There's a grand total of 2 games of Hang Tough. You know? So, if that's all Hang Tough is, there should probably be like, oh, you made it to this level, that's 2 points. You made it to this one, that's 4 points. You know, give people more partial wins. Have people get points. Have them actually, you know, have it be a contention. You know, this person has a 10-point lead, but oh no, this person made up 8 of those points. Back and forth like that with the points. And, you know, I understand obviously from a television standpoint that, you know, obviously these are not filmed all in like one episode is one, like, you know, we got the joust set up here. Okay, the joust is going to be in like 4 of these episodes. You know, everyone's doing joust now. It's not happening later, you know, etc. So on and so forth. You know, hi, we're doing this. This is, you know, Atmosphere. Okay, everyone doing Atmosphere. That's in episodes 5, 6, and 8, and 12, and 14. Everyone's doing Atmosphere right now. You know, I understand that's how it is. At the same time, I mean, you know, that doesn't mean that everyone, you know, that doesn't mean that Atmosphere is all. That doesn't mean Joust is always the first game of that episode. Atmosphere is always the second game of that episode. You can mix and match those. You know, that's the magic of post-production. You know, we don't know which game was first, which game was second. You can say, all you have to do is say, after 5 events, this is the score. After 4 events, this is the score. After 2 events, this is the score. You in post-production can decide which of those events was first, second, third, and fourth, whatever. Because, you know, at the end of the day, it's just a timer that's going to be like how many seconds head start someone gets at the eliminator. That's what you're calculating. You know, as long as you don't change those results, you're good. You know, so yeah, that was you know, so there. You can still TV magic it a little bit. You can still go and say, well, okay, well, this episode, like, okay, obviously you can't do this for the semifinals and the finals and the quarterfinals and whatnot, but for the preliminaries, oh, there's like what, 32 different people in the preliminaries. You can pick one of those 16 episodes, in theory. I know there was only like 6, but in theory, there's 16 episodes, one for each in a bracket of 32, down to 16, down to 8, down to 4, down to the final 2, you know. You can have 16 different, you pick which one of the 16 different episodes it's like, oh, well, you know what, you can make the most exciting episode. We decided that Jim and Bob are in episode 1. Steve and Chris are in episode 2. You know, you can decide which one of those is whichever episode you want. You know, you can put those in any order you feel like. Historically, I believe, like, Nitro, like, suffered an injury, like, in the preliminaries of season 3, but the actual injury didn't happen on camera until the second half of the season. You know? So, like, you just decide which competitor, which competition is the most exciting. You know, if you were to like say, here's our first episode, here's the most exciting run of this. where it's back and forth, and the good eliminator, boom, that's episode 1. And maybe you don't put maybe you go and say, well, okay, we had our exciting thing there. There's a really exciting thing that happened to these 2 women, so let's put that in episode 2. Let's make their story episode 2. You can still TV magic this with, without changing the results, without doing slowdowns, without doing a bunch of sad sob stories. You can do TV magic to American Gladiators and make an exciting show by just having the competition and deciding what order to show the events. Well, obviously once you get to the quarterfinals and the semifinals, you're locked in. But the prelims, you can just mix and match how you feel. So yeah, I mean, there's a shot there, but I'm looking at this going the same way I sort of looked at the 2008 series, where I'm like, this is not as good. And to be fair, the original Gladiators was not that good by the time, like, season 6, season 7. It's like, ooh, we've lost the magic. Oh, and where's Assault? You literally, every commercial, Prime, has, like, the dad or the kids or whatever with, like, little Nerf guns shooting at each other. They're doing Assault. They're doing the game with the tennis balls being shot out of a cannon at people, and then you fire the giant Nerf arrow launcher thing at the target. They're playing Assault. And Assault is not one of the games that they're playing. And the entire season. It's not even on the goddamn show. But the people making the commercial know. They know that Assault is a damn good game. And actually, you know what? That brings me to another point. What is the game? Like, American Gladiators is not a track and field event. It's not a powerlifting event. It's a mix of everything. The rock climber's going to do good at the wall. Okay, fine. But is the rock climber going to do good shooting a Nerf gun? Probably not. The idea, that's also what brings it into the everyman sort of competition. You have multiple different avenues of like, well, this person's not good at hitting someone with a giant pugil stick, but man, they ran the maze really well. They navigated through it, figured out exactly what the path was, and just zipped on through. They might not have the muscles to knock someone off a pedestal, but they got the speed and the sprint and the whatever. Like, there were different skill sets being, so it wasn't just one person taking over. And granted, you really can't have someone just fly off with only 3 events, but you were missing some of the the different possible skill sets you could have. And I think even like earlier Gladiators got into this problem where it's like, oh, we're gonna have a tug of war against the giant roided up musclehead. He's 300 pounds! He's 120! Who do you think is winning tug of war? Like, tug of war was the most useless game. So, yeah. So, like, give me something dynamic. Give me something unique. Give me something different. Don't just have one person. Don't just have all, strength-based attractions, Slingshot, or even the, God, what was the version in 2008 where they just pressed the button and they got pulled up to try and make the shot. It was like basketball, but with like a ripcord where you just got launched up. Rocketball, I think? Yeah, like Rocketball. Rocketball is a game of timing. It's like, I'm going to press the button, I'm going to press the button. Boom! And then they went. It was a reaction game, a guessing game, a timing game, and shooting, a three-pointer game. Completely different skill set from, now I'm going to wrestle the gladiator and try to take them off the podium. It was different stuff that was being, tested. It was well-rounded, or more well-rounded than the 2026 show. Also, Assault, really good example of why giving someone partial points is awesome. The first couple of years of Assault, it was like, well, if you hit the center of the target, you get 10 points. If you hit the outside of the target, it's 5 points, and that's the end of the game. So, like, realistically, like, You can't, with a Nerf gun where the arrow flies in whatever direction it feels like because it's not an accurate arrow. It does not have actual aerodynamic capabilities that an arrow would have. You know, like, if you hit the target, the chance of you getting a 10-pointer or a 5-pointer is complete luck. And then you would get nothing for anything else. But in later editions, oh, you made it to this and fired a weapon, 1 point. You made it to the next weapon and fired it, 2 points. Made it to the next one, 3 points. You could have partial points, and it made it more exciting. Now you have a thing. Well, I'm not good with this, but do I take my time to aim, or do I just go fire blindly, rush to get more points? Because I don't think I'm going to win, but I can get more points. More dynamic. It made Assault more exciting. And then, hey, you know what? I ran out of ammo. That's okay. I can get an extra couple of points if I now scurry around this and make it to the finish line. You know, I might not have even hit the target, but I came away with 7 points or whatnot. I still mostly got stuff. Like, good dynamic event. Good dynamic event, Assault. Such a good event. So yeah. I did afterwards watching the final episode of American Gladiators, hosted by The Miz, some other person, and another person who's not even in the stadium, not even watching the event. You can tell they're just in like a green screen room, and it's like, were you even there? Like, you are completely disconnected. You're not even visible in any of the wide shots. You don't exist. You're a post-production person jumping in. But yeah, like, God, I just forgot what I was gonna say. I got sidetracked on the post-production person coming in. I'm gonna have to watch I'm gonna watch my own clip back and figure out what I was gonna say. See you in the next bit. Gladiators UK. I did watch an episode just to see, what the other events were, and they do have some interesting ones. Now, I'm not quite sure how dynamic some of them are. Like, Everest really can only go one of two ways. You push someone off, or it's a stalemate. And the saying of, like, okay, well, first it's going to tilt, and it's going to tilt in the competitor's favor, versus tilting and then it'll tilt in the gladiator's favor. It's like, okay, so it's always going to tilt in the same way, the same thing every time. It's like, okay. But then, of course, there's like a chasing game where, they run around and it's Pursuit or whatever, but it's not Pursuit because Pursuit was a different game where it was still a game of tag, or like a game of, like, rip the tag off of the contender. But there was like different obstacles. Run up the hill, now run down the hill, now go across the balance beam, now do this, now, it was a game of tag, a game of chase, but it wasn't, like that. This one was just do a lap, run up some steps, and grab a flag. It's like, okay, that's like less dynamic, but it's still testing more stuff, Like, part of me goes and says, I want, like, the weird UK games. Like, I want Pendulum, I don't care which version of Pendulum. Probably the one where you gotta hit the sensors. But, generally speaking, you're on a giant ball, and the ball swings back and forth like a pendulum, and you gotta crawl around the ball and hit the sensors. Like I would love to see that. I would love to see that type of game. I really do appreciate the UK Gladiators just for, like, going batshit off the wall sometimes. Like, they had a game where, like, people were on, like, sky cycles. They would just be like, and they were, like, themed to, like, some fantasy technological Valkyrie thing or whatever. And it's like, and Flight of the Conchords would start playing, and they'd fly up, and they would just get lifted up off, like, 30 feet off the ground, and then you'd have, like, this giant club, and just hit someone in the chest with a, that had, like, a laser tag target on them, and if you hit them twice, oh no, sparks fly out, and the chair, or the Valkyrie thing starts just lowering down. Like, what is this? What is, like, some of the games have never actually been shown just because they can't possibly, like they were tested at like a live version and people were like, we can't follow or understand any of this. But they made it into like the intro graphic or whatnot. Like there's one where it's like some circular platform that would spin. It was some sort of chase game, and like people had no idea what it even was. But like, yeah, like UK Gladiators would have, we're gonna climb up a pole and then swing across some trapping. Oh, not swing across, like bend the poles back and forth to try and like launch ourselves into the next pole. It's like, this game makes no sense. But I'm glad that you did something completely weird and insane. Like the American version of American Gladiators, redundant sentence of redundancy, plays it too safe and also half-asses it. It's UK Gladiator, and the UK Gladiators had 5 events and then the Eliminator. It was still 5 events. And I saw on like Reddit and whatnot, people were like, oh, well, we still lost an event. It's like, oh, so like, okay. So it would have been 6 events. They had 5 events before the Eliminator. Oh, well, whatever. But yeah, no, they get more events in. They get more, but yeah, like, there's a game of sumo ball. You know what? I want to see sumo ball. Have an American version of sumo ball. Why not? Yes, it's people pushing a ball, but realistically, it's a ball. Unless you're literally both people are pushing in the direct center on opposite angles, that's the only way it would stay still. You can still, like, even if you can't push someone back, it's a ball. It spins, it rotates. So you can push someone and it goes to the side, and oh no, going to the side, and now it's, the other way around. Now it's that way around, You can have multiple different possible angles, Oh, someone's off balance. Now they can start pushing and pushing and pushing. Whatever. Like, there's something that can be done with just, here's a giant 15-foot ball with a giant diameter. And we need to push each, and it's a game of sumo. Get the other person out of the ring. There's something that can be done with that. That's just my point. It's like, I like the UK Gladiators does ridiculous shit. And I'm certain the Australian Gladiators probably uses a lot of the stuff from the UK's thing as well. There was a whole Gladiators International, and I don't remember which country was which of Gladiators International. But yeah, no. The American version is always the least weird, the least experimental. And, like, the big thing they got here was like, oh, we have Atmosphere, but it's a race in a circle. And I'm looking at it going like, well, one competitor starts in the inside lane, one starts in an outside lane. Immediately, you're now putting someone at a disadvantage just because of the lane things. And okay, cool. Like, whoever is the gladiator inside the sphere will go and hit the first person who's in first, which means the person in second is going to skate on by. And then that gladiator is going to hit that one. And the first one is like, I'm literally looking at this going like, okay, so it's going to be, it's Monopoly. There is a guaranteed best spot to be in Monopoly. It's the first person. And there's a guaranteed, these are the best spaces you want to get. The 2 right after go. There is a guaranteed, this is a better position, it's an unfair game. Because it's literally a singular track. So, yes, there might be something weird that happens, but it's going to be person on inside lane gets up to the gladiator first, boom, hits the gladiator, other person goes around, boom, okay, now the person on the inside lane passes that, so on and so forth. It's going to be a guaranteed back and forth, pretty much, just from the way the course is laid out. Like, there's a set thing that's going to happen. So yeah, so I wasn't really even that interested in the Atmosphere race thing that they did. It wasn't, and it was a 10-point, 5-point, or 0-point game, and everyone that played it got the 10 points and the 5 points. There was no 0 points, and it's just like, okay, it's basically a useless game. So yeah, like, and yes, like, so I'm always terrified when like something like this, comes back up. It's like, if they were to bring back Guts, like the aggro crag and all the thing, basically, American Gladiators, but for kids. It's not going to be the same. If they bring back, actually, they did try to bring back Legends of the Hidden Temple, and it was not as good. Same sort of thing. Like, I don't think people seem to. I don't know. I will always be a sucker for more American Gladiators. I will always try it out, but nothing beats that original run, or more specifically, nothing beats the middle of the original run, because the beginning was no budget cardboard cutout people in the background, and a lot of the really bizarre, unfair rules they had to iron out, like and then the final bit of the original run was like it got like really like it was honestly it was the beginning of the American Gladiators essentially going Hollywood and becoming more about the glitz and the glam and the presentation over the actual events. It just got sort of weird. Then you got into like the Battle Dome stuff, which was not American Gladiators, but it was like American Gladiators mixed with kayfabe wrestling storylines between the gladiators, which is weird. So yeah, you'd watch a staged fight between the gladiators in between the contestants actually trying to have a real fight. Yeah, it was weird. Also, I think some of the events were like legit, like got people killed and whatnot. Like they were too dangerous. But yeah. So yeah, that's it. Those are my thoughts. That's it. Sorry for the late video, I guess. I don't know, when was the last time? My last video was August 9th. What's today, the 13th? Oh, that's actually not bad. That's fine. I'll, see how well this video does. Right now, my current best video is recently. From when I started back up in July again. Oh, the Jinroki Winverga Rebellion blog by a grand total of 5 views over the previous one. Is that going to become a monthly thing then? The monthly Jinroki Winverga rant as the story proceeds to delve deeper and deeper into the into just the stupid shit that series does. Is that what I'm gonna be? Am I the weekly, the monthly hentai reviewer? Is that what I am here? Okay. Weekly Raw episodes. God, I don't want to do that. but yeah, no. So anyway, yep, still trying to figure out all this, see what actually sticks, what doesn't, so on and so forth. I don't know, this has probably been like an hour of me ranting about American... Yeah, it's 2 a.m. in the morning. I've been at this for at least an hour and a half then. I'm going to stop it here and say thank you for listening to my rant about American Gladiators. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time when I make a video about whatever the heck I feel like making it about. Toodles!